Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Safe Room. I'm your host, the President Sean Williams. We're back with another episode, and today I have someone who, listen, this episode should have been out last year. It should have, but times were changing. But honestly, I'm so happy to have this individual here. The first time I met him, it's actually at the Branded Entrepreneurship Conference, which is coming up very, very soon. So everything's kind of like full circle with this conversation we're about to have. What can I say about this person? Truly like inspirational, hardworking, and just honest, but the type of honesty that you want for like any entrepreneurs who are starting up or someone who's just starting to get their feet wet a bit. This is the type of guy you want in terms of feedback, critical analysis, and listen, he's doing this thing as well. He's got his own business, he's got his own brands that he's working out. So nothing left to say. Nothing left to say. I got Hamza here on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good, Sean. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here. Again, like I mentioned before, it's been a while coming. I know you're supposed to get this done last
Yeah,
time. And if I tell everyone how that kind of span into like we would be here for a whole other hour,
a
but
hot minute. Yeah. Well, I'm honestly, I'm just happy to be here, and I also want to say hello, viewer, to the person listening. What's up? And my goal is to just really and truly be of service and to bring as much value as I possibly can. So I'm here. I'm dialed in. I'm ready to go. So yeah, I'm so pumped. And thanks again, Sean, for having me on your show.
of course, man. The honor is completely mine. I really, really mean it, guys. If you know about Hamza, if you heard of Bits, Business in the Streets, maybe that name sounds familiar. But we're gonna get into your personal story, Hamza, just the work that you're doing, and just what exactly you cater to your audience, and how you could be of service to anyone listening here who may need some feedback or need some techniques or tools that they can use for their business. So again, we're definitely gonna get into like all the meat and potatoes of that. But before that, you know how we start things off, ladies and gentlemen. We have our hot seat segment. And Hamza, I'm going to ask you 4 simple questions and just make sure you answer them to your best abilities, okay?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So, question number one. So, outside of your work, being someone who's an entrepreneur and again, who works a lot in terms of like brand strategy, tell me something about yourself in one sentence.
I am very interested in the intersection of creativity and life. I'll leave it there because I have to keep it to one sentence. But I'm just very excited about what the potential of creativity in today's world is.
Yeah, that's really good. I feel like some people have that mindset, but I also feel like some people are just like every day there's something new that's being created and it's like it's
Hmm.
always 50-50. It's like okay, like we're expecting this, it's evolution. We have to kind of keep up with the times, but other people are like, "No, let's stick to the traditional stuff. We like it like it is," or we're not sure if this is even going to work. So the fact that you even put it out like that, it's good to see that you see life as in, I want that creativity to always keep showing. It has
Yeah,
to be something where again, like creativity is true like potential, not only when it comes like from a physical standpoint, but even like the creativity you have mentally, some of the thoughts and the different ideas that you carry with yourself. That's the potential that you can give out to other people.
100%. And like people kind of have different definitions of creativity, and I've struggled with it a lot. But I think maybe one thing that I just want to highlight is that everybody is creative. I'm not an artist, I can't paint. I'm not a good writer, but my creativity, I channel that into my entrepreneurship. And that's really what I want to tell people as well is just because you're not a painter or, a YouTuber who are the people that I work with, like there's room for you to be creative and to use that in life. And I think the more we accept that, the more exciting the possibilities become.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Wow. Such a strong start already. Okay. Let's get to the second question for the hot seat. Okay. Can you name me a business right now that you are supporting? So supporting could look in any matter. Maybe it's a business that you're actually investing in their product, their service, or maybe you see them online or maybe in person and you kind of you rock with the message and the vision that they give off.
Yeah. Well, if I may, I'd love to talk about some of my clients because what we do is we work closely with our guys, and we represent YouTubers, and I look at all of them as individual entrepreneurs, and they're building creative empires basically. So I'll just throw out some names. There's Johnny Two Cellos, there's Jay's Reviews, there's the Round Table. The list goes on and on. I would really love to name every single one of them, but Bellvines, you know who you guys are, and I rock with you guys, and I'm so privileged to be able to be working with these guys, and I alongside them am helping them build their business and am a part of their story, and those are the businesses that I like wake up every single day and I'm like, yes, I get to work with these guys. So a little bit of a cop out, but that's my answer.
Hey, I mean, more love to spread around. Just kind of name some of your clients. And of course, like, we as entrepreneurs, I think we always have that feeling to not only get to the work that we're doing, but also see others, like, feel successful, helping them, providing mentorship, facilitation, or like tools and resources that allow them to grow in their professional development. I think that's so crucial. And when you're able to look at a client and you see how well they're doing, and then they start telling other people, oh yeah, I talked to Hamza, like he helped me with my brand strategy, like it puts a smile on your face for real.
I just like to see them winning. Like I don't take any credit for it, but I'm just happy to be a part of their story and to contribute in the ways that I do. And it's awesome to see people building their thing and just playing a tiny, tiny role in that, like just puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I share the same sentiment. Anytime I get to just have conversations with people, and sooner or later, I'm going to be wanting to like reach out to people to help them with anything that they need, whether it's needing coverage of an event. I want to be able to say that, afterwards we have that conversation and they're like, yeah, like we appreciate your service. Like we really appreciate the fact that you're trying to, capture these live moments with us, with your podcast. Like that's definitely something that it's coming and it's already showing. It's already showing what I'm doing. So I definitely share that sentiment with you for sure.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome. That's the best way to do it.
Of course, of course. Okay, let's get into the next question. An interesting fact that you rarely share about yourself.
Maybe the meaning of my name, which my name is pronounced Hamza, and it means lion heart, which I actually like just blurted that out the other day, and I like realized I don't think anybody I know actually knows that about me. So yeah, that's what my name means, lion heart.
Wow, I definitely did not know about that. So we're definitely learning as we go.
Yeah. How about yourself, Sean? Is there an interesting fact about yourself?
Oh man, I love how you threw the question out. Well, since we're kind of talking about names and meanings, I do have like this little like picture frame in my living room where it kind of goes into detail like what my name is and like, some of the different things. I wish I could grab it right now, but like I'm like upstairs and it's downstairs, so I'm just gonna
It's a whole
explain it.
situation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So basically like with this frame that they gave us, my name it means protected by the Lord, which is
Wow.
kind of like very fitting because I come from like a religious family, a Christian family. So like my dad's a pastor. So I feel like
Okay.
that was kind of like like the vision was there. And like they even have like little things of like my favorite numbers or like what are some of your leisures. I mean, now some of them are accurate, others are a little inaccurate, but I think it's very unique. I haven't told many people about that. So guys, if you're listening, there you go. It's an interesting fact about Sean. There you go.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks for rolling with that. I just threw that back at you.
Of
No,
course,
that's
of
cool.
course.
I'm very interested in names. Like I spent a long time naming our company, and did the same thing for the last one, and will probably do the same thing for all the ones that come after this. Like I think names are something you grow into, and so like if you get to pick the name of something, it's like pretty exciting.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely a process too, depending on just how you think about something and how you want to actually give it that name. Again, your name is definitely your identity. So you want to be that when someone says it out loud, that there's always a thought or there's always like a connection in the back of their head. It's like, oh yeah, I know what this name is about, or I know what the meaning of it is. So yeah, there's a fascination behind names for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Final question for the hot seat segment. What is your personal safe room?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, it's my family. I am very lucky to just come from an incredibly supportive family, and I think people think that I play favorites, so I'm not going to name any names. But my family, like they know who they are, and they're all very very important to me, and they have been the most supportive people on this crazy journey of entrepreneurship. And I'm talking about my immediate family. I'm talking about my extended family. Those people have really kind of just been the people in my corner that have been like, "Hey, man, like go ahead and go for your dreams." And I think any room that I find my family in is a safe room for me.
That's nice. That's really nice. And I think a lot of us sometimes we're so caught up with the work life that we forget that our families are like our biggest supporters. And sometimes when we're looking for that validation in something, your family's always there. Like for me, it's my twin sister. Like she's someone that will tell me straight up if an idea is really good and she's like, yeah, you should definitely do it, or like congrats. And then she'll tell me if an idea is straight shit. Just like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah,
good. You need to go
definitely.
back and fix it. I love you, but you
Yeah,
need to go back to the drawing board.
yeah, and on that point, like when I say family is like my biggest supporter, I don't want to give people the impression that like they've always understood what I'm doing. Like I think those are two very different things. Like my family has always kind of been like, all right, cool, you're trying to do something. Like, all right, that's like cool. But there's also at times like there's that energy of like, but what do you actually do? Like what's actually going on here? So, like oftentimes we can think that people not understanding our vision is the same thing as them not supporting us. But I think it's totally possible for people to support you and not get the vision or like not see it the way you see it and stuff like that. I think that's pretty important because for the most part, our families just want the best for us, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but that's been my experience.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. All right. Well, yeah, those are pretty much all the questions I got for the hot seat segment. Now we can get into the main questions, get into the main show here. So, Hamza, I know again you have been doing a lot and you have definitely been such a support to a lot of people, like not even just myself, because again, I remember meeting you back last year at the branded conference, and I just think from there we had such a really good relationship, whether it was our private calls or just getting the chance to meet each other in person, just kind of catch up, see where the both of us were at. But
Yeah.
I do want to talk about, yeah, of course, I do want to talk a bit about just, what you do personally. Again, just how you offer your help and your expertise to your clients, to other people, particularly in brand strategy, because I know that was something that you talked about before. And I know for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's kind of one of the few things that they're trying to figure out, especially if you're getting off the ground. Like, what is my brand strategy? How am I going to present myself? How am I going to market to certain audiences? What's my niche? How am I going to present my products and my services? So, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know about you or even some of the businesses that you may be a part of or run, could you just kind of explain the purpose of what you're trying to do? And I know you mentioned Bellvines as well, so I would love to hear a little bit more about that. And I think anyone else wants to hear a little bit more on what's your relationship with Bellvines as well.
All right. Yeah. I'll try to do this. So I run a company called Bellvines Influence. We are a creator management company, and our goal is to help creative people build their empire. And currently, what that looks like is we work with a roster of YouTubers. I mentioned a couple of them just a few moments ago. And primarily, we do two things. The first is we advise them on their career and kind of give them our like opinions on here's what I think you should be doing, here are some moves you can make, and ultimately they're the decision maker and they drive the vehicle of their business. But we're kind of like I try to think of Bellvines as the just a business person who's in the room and is willing to share an opinion with you. And so we work with YouTubers in that capacity, and then we also are a brand partnership facilitator. So we will go and find brands who have products and services that are relevant to our creators, and we'll kind of put together partnerships that are mutually beneficial for both the brands and the creators. And so all of this can be summarized by, we are a creator management company. We're specifically focused on helping high effort video creators on YouTube. And yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. I could talk about Bellvines till the cows come home, but we're basically really passionate about the creator economy and helping creators build their empire. That's like what I wake up thinking about, and uh, embarrassingly often what I go to sleep thinking about as well.
I mean, I don't even look at it embarrassingly because like I'm the same thing with my own like stuff with my business, with my podcast. I wake up every day and the first thing I think about is like, okay, what do I need to do first before like any other meeting or any other objective? And when you go to sleep, it's the same thing for me. But again, I love how what Bellvines is trying to do is to help the creator economy. You see how everyone nowadays are either using social media,
Yeah,
YouTube, just to again get their message across or even just to promote themselves. And I think we live in a world where there's a lot of instant gratification. So it's tricky to like put out content or to put out ideas where you're always going to keep a certain audience invested in what you're doing because it all it takes is one other post or one other influencer creative to post something that's a little bit better than that other individual. And next thing you know, you're not getting those clicks, you're not getting those views, the reach. So it's really great to kind of see what Bellvines is trying to do. I did
yeah.
want to ask like a follow-up question. So with that, yeah, with that being the creator economy, again, what would you say like through some of the interactions you've had with clients is one of the most common things that they address to you in terms of like an issue or like when they come to you to ask, hey, like I'm trying to kind of get that good identity for my brand, but I suffer with this, or one of my biggest issues is this. So, like, what would you say is some of the most common problems that any creative, any influencer, or anyone in the creator economy that comes to Bellvines or comes to you particularly that kind of addresses what they want for their brand strategy?
So I'll take a step back here, and I will say that I'm not referring to any of our clients specifically. So like that there's nobody I'm talking about here. But what I can do is take a step back and kind of talk about more generally what my experiences have been talking with people who are influencers or are coming up in the influencer game and just trying to figure their thing out. And I think for the answer to that, it's actually something I've thought about quite a bit, which is creative people on the internet. A lot of them are really good at the creative side. They do whatever it is, like they make videos on YouTube, or they do like graphic design. Like they're really good at what they do. um, and I think one of the things that I'm really proud of that we're able to help creators with, but I think that creators could also think about for themselves as well, is how to think about what you're doing as part of a larger organization, right? So it'd be like if your company has, like if you're a graphic design company, it's like, yeah, there's a person who is doing the social media content, and then there's a person who's doing the graphic design work itself. But are there other people in other departments at the company? Like, who's your salesperson? Who's your like strategy person? Like, and when you're building your own thing, you have to think about these things. I think what I'm excited about is, as an entrepreneur, I learned that I have to wear all these hats for myself. And then when I got into the creator economy side of things, I guess like a thing that I started to realize is like, we tell entrepreneurs that you have to wear all these different hats. Like, you have to learn how to sell, you have to learn how to like build a strategy, like you have to learn these things. But I feel like that message doesn't always get to the creator side. And I feel like sometimes creators think that building out that skill set will come at a cost of the creative skill set. And it doesn't have to. I think they can be very complementary. I think there's lots of case studies of people that have really figured out the business side and really figured out the creative side. And ultimately, if you're a creator and your goal is to make a living with creativity, what you really want, I think, and this is a bit of an assumption, but what you really want is to make a good living and to be able to produce the creative work that makes you happy. And there's a lot of people that have figured out that equation. So if there is a playbook for that equation, I think that's something to pay attention to, and to recognize that doing so doesn't necessarily mean that you are less of a creative and that your art is less valuable or diminished in any way.
Yeah, definitely. And I like how you mentioned at the beginning how it's not just like figuring out who's going to be doing the social media and the graphic design, but how does the rest of that team or just the operations look like as well? I think that's so crucial because I think for a lot of graphic designers or anyone who works in social media, yes, digital media is very like there's so much avenues, but at the same time, like you need to be able to kind of have a salesman or salesperson who can be able to go out there and get those leads, get those sales for your company, for your business. There's should be always someone who's doing like administration. I feel like I don't hear that enough nowadays in
Hmm.
terms of like who's doing the administration and the things like who's organizing like maybe any incoming emails or incoming messages or like just someone who's going to be managing projects. Because I'm pretty sure for anyone who kind of does graphic design, they may have ideas and projects, long term projects that they want to run. How does that look like? Do you have someone for finance? Do you have someone that's going to be managing the financials? Do you have like someone who does accounting, bookkeeping? Those are so crucial. So,
In the beginning, it's going to be all you, right? Like that's the whole point of like having that entrepreneur, like bootstrapper mindset of like, yeah, I got to do everything. But I think it's still worth in your head at least recognizing that these are different roles that the company needs from me as the creative entrepreneur that's responsible for everything. And then as you go, you can figure out how to pull people in and recruit people and or hire them or work with an agency that can help take some of these things off of your plate. But I think like certainly what you don't want to do is ignore them entirely. But also like to the listener, what I want to say is like I'm not a creator, right? So like you're listening to somebody who is kind of like more of a on the business side of the creator economy. Maybe if you asked a creator, they would give you a different, a different take on that. And that's really important to keep in mind because ultimately, I think one problem in the creator economy is people that aren't creators giving advice to creators. And I don't really think that that should be overly relied upon. And that's why I'm actually doing stuff like this as well, because I want to become more of a creator myself as well, so that the advice and opinions I have are actually contextualized. But I want to be very transparent about the fact that I'm not there yet. I'm building that up and I'm figuring out what my role in the creator economy actually is going to be. And I'm doing that right now, like on camera, on this mic. So take everything I say with a grain of salt, especially if you're a creator. That's I think a very important part of what I'm trying to say here.
yeah, and I appreciate that you even mentioned that because I feel a lot of us sometimes when we go to listen to other people and get their take and their experience, we kind of always have this like I wouldn't say negative assumption, but it's kind of frequent where when we're listening to that person speak, we're assuming that oh they've done it all, they know exactly what they're talking about, and they're kind of like in a league of their own. Where at the same time, like they don't realize that we're still trying to like take insights and skill sets of our own. So I appreciate you kind of being just very open and honest, just saying like I'm not a creator. You are kind of more on the business side, and I'm going to get into that a bit with the next question. And you're just trying to learn a little bit more, but also with you've accumulated in terms of like your expertise and your knowledge, you're trying to help those creators with whatever you can that it allows them to grow within their own lane, not that it has to be within a specific lane or what other persons are doing. It's within their own lane.
Yeah, exactly. Like my job is to understand what is this person's lane and how can I leverage my skill set and the resources of the company to help them do what they're trying to do, not what I want them to do.
Yeah, of course, of course. All right. Yeah, so I know I mentioned business and we're gonna get into it right now. So what motivated you to get into Bellvine? And you probably did touch upon this, but also I wanted you to ask or wanted to ask you, excuse me, how did you get integrated within the realm of business and entrepreneurship when it comes to Bellvine? So I know again we talked about Bellvine, how it's a creative management company, I believe, correct?
Hmm.
Yes. So how does that kind of interweave itself into the business side of things, especially for you just saying that you're kind of more on the business aspect of things when it comes to your just relationship with Bellvine?
Okay. So there's three questions. There's how did we start the company? How do we make money? And what was my journey into entrepreneurship? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, like how did you get into Bellvines? How it got started? I don't think I mentioned anything about money, but if you want to answer it, I mean, all swings, all swings.
I thought you were
And
asking. I thought you were asking. I can talk about both of those things. So, firstly, how did I get into the business? There's a story there. So, prior to this, I was running a corporate wellness company. That basically my story is I started a business out of university. I built that business up for 4.5 years, and then I was one of the many people whose business failed during COVID, and I had to start over. But it turned out to be a blessing because I realized that I have all of these skills that I've accumulated from running a previous business that, by all measures was a struggling business. And I always thought that that business was just like a failure because it didn't make it, right? But today I realize that I wouldn't be able to run things the way that I'm running them if I hadn't actually had the experience of running my previous company. So I actually refer to my last company as business school because I didn't go to business school. I went to school for something else. So that was my education on business. I learned everything I needed to learn about, just getting a company going and stuff like that. During COVID, the company failed, and I decided that I want to get involved with YouTube. I was like, this is the industry that I find most exciting. Like, out of all my options, the most exciting one is YouTube. And then I got depressed because I thought I had to become a YouTuber. And at the time, I was like, really not down to be a YouTuber. And I also didn't understand the business model of making videos for YouTube. So I thought, like, I don't know how I'm going to build a career here and stuff. And what I decided to do was I actually just started emailing YouTubers. And I was like, hey, listen, I am interested in doing something in the world of YouTube. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but if you talk to me, I can build something for you. And maybe like you're willing to give me a chance. And I did that about with 15 creators, and a handful of them are still my clients today, actually. So that's kind of how we got started. Was like I just really just started reaching out to people that I wanted to work with. I was very transparent, as I am with everything that I do, about, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Like, do you think we could kind of work together and talk about this? And a handful of them gave me a chance. And in the beginning, I kind of basically said, like, look, I'm willing to just hustle and do this like for the love. And they saw that I was sincere about that, and we started to get some results for them. And from there, basically, the company just has grown from almost, not purely but significantly, from word of mouth. And that pretty much brings us to where we're at today.
I love that. I absolutely love that. There's a couple things I took away from that. So the first thing was that you took the initiative to email YouTubers and say like, how can I, help or support in any way that I possibly can, which I feel like you don't really see that much often. If you see a YouTuber, you just kind of throw out a manifestation of, oh, I would like to collaborate with that person, or like I
Hmm.
definitely want to work with them, but you don't really see
Yeah.
any call to action. You definitely took that call to action step, which led you to have those working relationships. And it's good to hear that some of those YouTubers you reached out in the beginning are still your clients. So again, it shows the level and just the echelon that you're on right now. And you mentioned as well that you've had a really good working relationship with them. So yeah, that was definitely one of the first things I took away from it. The second thing, oh man, I'm losing my train of thought. This has never happened before. Oh snap.
Yeah. Well, I can jump in, give you a beat there.
Okay.
So with the thing about the call to action, I think if anybody is going to take anything away from what I just said, it's like to actually not do exactly that, because where I messed up was I didn't have a specific idea of like, hey, here's what I can do for you. I was actually asking them for a favor of like, hey, can you meet with me so I can figure out what I can do for you? So that's maybe like the one area for improvement there, is like if you're reaching out to somebody, um, I think people like hearing that, hey, I want to hear about your problems so that I can solve them. Like that's a nice thing to hear. But a nicer thing to hear is, hey, I know your problems and I have a solution for them and I'm willing to provide it to you. So a little room for improvement there, but that's okay. It all worked out
Yeah,
anyway.
of course, of course. I'm actually glad you jumped in because I just remembered my train of thought. When you did approach them, it was very genuine, and they can tell they saw that genuine side of you. And I feel like a lot of times, and this is just me kind of speaking on a personal vendetta. I hate when you're on like specific apps like LinkedIn, whatever, and then people just spam you saying like, hey, I seen your business and you're doing some amazing things and yada yada yada. And it's just, you can tell that there's not an actual connection relationship. I actually got it in I would say heated argument with someone, but they were so persistent in wanting to connect with me. They said, "Oh, we checked out your podcast and everything." So I asked them a simple question back. I'm like, "Okay, what's your favorite episode?" Did not hear a
How did that
single
go?
response after that. I'm like, "That's what I thought."
Yeah, yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, and I have a lot of opinions about sales, especially like I would consider that like a bad salesperson. Um, so I think we can get into that stuff as well. But I think like that's a very important skill set for early, really any entrepreneur to build out. I still consider myself an early stage entrepreneur, obviously. So I don't want to comment on people that are ahead of me in the game, but I think like entrepreneurship and sales like really go hand in hand, and it's like a very, very useful skill set to build out.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually did want to get into sales a bit because I'm kind of flashback. I'm having a flashback to when I was at the branded conference. I think you were kind of going over a bit about sales, but also knowing how to pitch yourself. So I know there's like different ways or different techniques that you could approach it, whether it's just having like schedule a meeting with someone and giving a pitch, or even like emails. I remember that workshop distinctly where you had to make sure that the email you wrote was like intriguing, compelling, but it wasn't too long. It got across everything. There were like call to actions. So I would like for you to kind of touch upon that, or even break down that scenario, because I think from that moment it changed my entire perception of how I sent emails. Before, I was really just open about it's like, hi, like my name is this. It's like I would like to. It's like now I'm very like particular, and I try my best. Like, let me not try to be so like, how could I say it? Oh, I'm just being very lollygaggy with my email. It's like, no, like it needs to stick to something, and I always try my best to have that call to action, or like let's book a date, or let's book a meeting, or like I'm
Right.
willing to like meet up with you in person. Those are things before like I never implemented. So I would love for you to kind of go into detail on that and how it even helps with like sales in a way.
Yeah, I can definitely like get into that. Firstly, I want to say I will address this to people that maybe are just starting out with figuring out their sales stuff, because I'm still very much a student of the game. I'm learning. I had a conversation yesterday with somebody who kind of like looked at my emails and was tearing them apart, and I'm like, I'm cool with all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like I'm here to learn, but at the same time, maybe there's some things that I have learned that I can share with people. So the first thing that comes to mind is when you send an email. I think the number one mistake I see people make that are just building the skill set for the first time is when you're reaching out to somebody, the outreach should not be about you. So literally like look at the email and count the number of sentences that are describing what you do. Like how many of like if it's a first of all, most first draft sales outreach emails are way too long. So it's probably like two or three paragraphs. It should probably just be one paragraph. But if you count the number of sentences and like 80% of them are describing your services and what you do and how your clients love you and all that kind of stuff, like I get it that building context is important, but you got to put yourself in the shoes of the reader and like you're walking down the street and you get a push notification on Gmail and you click on it just to see what it is. You're like, is this important? Is this not important? I don't know. You open up the email and there's somebody talking about what they do. And you're like, what the hell is this? I don't have time for this. You're going to close it. You're going to move on with your life, right? So when you go about writing these things, you have to come from a place of how can I be of service to this person? And so cut the fluff firstly, because you don't need to like really tell them a whole lot about yourself. You really just need to communicate that you are somebody who is understanding of some kind of problem that they're having, whether it's a pain point or a challenge they're experiencing, and that you have a relevant offer, right? And the offer doesn't have to be what you do. The offer could be like, let's talk a little bit about if I'm like one of my favorite kind of like ways to end an email is to actually say like, can we talk about if I'm on the ball here? Right. So it's like here's what I think about the situation, but I don't even know if I've got that correct or not. But maybe I have. So can we talk about if I'm kind of in the right category here, or what do you guys think about that? And like, it's kind of just starting a conversation and doing so from a place of giving service and being helpful. There's definitely salespeople who would disagree with my approach, and that's fine. Like, they don't. Not everybody has to have the same approach, but the way I go about it is really and truly to think about how do we respect this person's time, because I don't want to have anybody steal my time. So when I email somebody, I try to make sure that this is very relevant to their life and their priorities. And then how can I communicate that I'm somebody who has something that's relevant to whatever challenges they're experiencing. And you don't really want to have that thirsty salesperson energy. It's very obvious, and unless your product is really good and like literally a no-brainer, which very few products or services actually are, there's always going to be a little bit of like hesitancy and stuff like that. Then you have to address those things, and you have to build trust naturally. Well, you don't have to do anything, but that's my approach.
No, I feel you. And I really like the idea of, again, having something at the end where it's like, am I on the ball? Like, is what I'm saying like really connecting with you? Because again, it's a nice little cliffhanger. So when they see that, it's like it kind of feels like you're having that conversation in person, but again, it's online with the email. So I think that is definitely unique. And again, depending on who you are, you may have your different ways of approaching it. So again, I like how you're sharing it, but it's not to say do exactly what I did. It's just like, no, like these are some of the things I've tried out. And I think that's really important for anyone who's listening, is to hear exactly, what Hamza is sharing, hoping that you can get your own insight and have an own understanding on how to approach, little emails like that could lead to sales. And I would even add on, like, there's a 7-second gap, like 7 seconds. If you're reading into an email and 7 seconds in, you don't feel that there's nothing, like you mentioned before, you're talking about yourself way too much, or there isn't anything that's actually keeping you attracted, then most likely people are going to just hop off. They're like,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not
yeah.
reading the rest. This just is a waste of my time.
You got to respect people's time. We're all so naturally excited about what we're doing and what we're building that we just assume that, oh, if somebody opens this email, they're surely going to be just as excited as I am. But hell no, they're not. That, like, not even close. Like, you gotta earn that, and that takes time, and that takes multiple touch points, and it's a process, and nobody owes you that level of like excitement. You gotta earn your way to that.
Yeah, and listen, to anyone listening, sometimes that can be intimidating because now when you're emailing someone, you're just like, oh boy, I hope I say the right things. And even if you might think you say the right things, they may shut you down, and that's okay. It's not even to look at it as a discouraging thing, but it's just more like, okay, this is how I have to approach it better the
Yeah,
next time. Like, if you're opening up saying good afternoon, I hope you're doing well, and I hope your day, that alone is like, okay, you need to fix that, because now you're
yeah.
just kind of
You could probably
explaining
edit that down.
it. Yeah. So
You probably edit that down a little bit.
of
Yeah,
course.
you gotta balance like the need for like being a human being, and like also the need to respect someone's time. And I think anybody who's struggling with how to like use like sales vocabulary is, don't look at it as you're being like a weird salesperson. Like, just look at it as like you are treating this person's time with the maximum amount of respect. So you're not going to waste their time on stuff that, like, if you got in an email, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm so glad this person asked me if I'm having a good evening. Like, you're not going to care about that much. So like, why is your prospect going to care that much about it? So thinking along the lines of like, don't just assume that being a salesperson is like being sleazy. Like, being a salesperson is being respectful of someone's time. It's being helpful. It's having a good product, having a good service. Those are the things that are going to actually move the needle forward. And then there's more advanced stuff, which like, comes later. But I think like on a very, very fundamental level, like those are some of the things that I would focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are really, really important takeaways to anyone listening to this episode. Okay, I do want to go back a bit to Bellvine, and I want to talk about if there was any issues or maybe trials and tribulations that you experienced when you were trying to implement the vision for Bellvine. Did you feel at one point it wasn't getting enough traction that it was? Do you feel like it was on the right trajectory, but there was something that at the time being there needed to be addressed at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's business, right? So there's so many so many stories like that can come to mind. I think maybe one story that is relevant is when I got to a point where I was running the company and things were getting a little bit out of hand with like the volume of work and stuff like that. And so one thing that I struggled with for a long time was to think about like, how do I bring people in? How do I build something so that I don't have to be responsible for every single aspect of the company? And I was saying this earlier about, creatives, but I think all entrepreneurs kind of struggle with some version of this, which is like you got to think about yourself and then you got to think about all the roles that you wear and to what extent is it appropriate for you to like wear the hat in each of those roles. Like maybe you're getting to a point where you can start bringing people in and stuff. So for me, a big thing was actually to start thinking about ways to bring people in and to create an opportunity for somebody else like while I do so, but also so that we're addressing some of the problems of like how can we get to the next step if all of my time and energy is being spent on just staying where we're at. So that's where you kind of have to start thinking about.
Yeah, I think that's anyone who's like a solopreneur right now. There's that stage of like with the team aspect. When do you need to bring in a team? And this is just kind of like me kind of speaking from my own personal experience. I think when you have no capacity to even work on the most basic things that you're usually able to do on your own, I think that's where you have to start asking yourself or telling yourself, yeah, I need to get some support. And I know sometimes getting a team, there's a lot of like complications or things to think about. It's like, oh, if I bring on a team, like, do they share the same vision? Do they actually see what I'm trying to create with the business? But also, like, does that lead into payroll? How does that look like? So those are a lot of things to really think about. But I appreciate again you sharing that because I think a lot of us don't really want to invite that conversation because we're always with that mindset like I can do it on my own, like I can do this. Guys, there are even times I'm questioning myself, like, I don't know if I can do all this
What am I
editing
really doing here?
straight up.
Yeah.
It's just like it's like I need help. And even like recently, like I've been trying to implement myself into more like entrepreneurial events to do media coverage. And as much as like I have like amounts of expertise and talent, I hire photographers and videographers to help me get those like situations done because I can't be going around carrying a camera and filming while also holding a microphone. It's just it's too much work for me.
Yeah, I think like if you're not there yet, I think the place to start is sales. Like not to be the most obvious person in the universe, but like if you spent a significant amount of your energy figuring out the revenue side and you're bringing revenue in, then that's where you can kind of start operating from a place of like, okay, like now if I bring somebody in, it's going to be an opportunity for them as well. And all of us have interesting networks. All of us have interesting people that we're surrounded by that are like down to roll up their sleeves and do something cool alongside you. Just have to make sure that it's like you've got the fundamental side of it going already, and that's where it gets exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I did have a little intermission if that's okay with you, just a little activity. So what I want to do, I want to list out just a list of companies, and I want you to, in your best ability, to describe them in 3 words or fewer.
All right, let's try it.
And
Let's
like
jump in.
it can be any way you want to describe it. I just kind of want to see how just your reaction of it. Okay, so like
Hmm.
I'm just pulling up a site right now just to see. By the way, guys, this is on the fly. Like I had something else planned, but I'm just kind of working with the flow.
All right, well, that makes me more excited because we're both on the spot now.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'm gonna start with a very simple one. Okay, so the first one, Bank of America.
Oh, I have no opinions on Bank of America. I don't know anything about their business. It's a bank.
I feel you. Let's try this one. Walmart.
Big box That's the first thing that comes to mind. It's a big box store, malls. I don't know. Yeah, like I don't have a lot of opinions on Walmart either.
I love how you said big box. I think that's probably the most hilarious answer I've heard so far. Like, wow, Walmart big box. Yeah. So, okay. I'll probably see if I can stick within the technological realm. Okay, Apple.
Visionary and just like human design, I guess, is like I'm a big fan of the Apple design. Keep in mind, to the listener, like I obviously know that there's pros and cons to every business. So um, just putting that out there.
No, I understand. Okay, next one, Tim Hortons.
Oh, come on. I Tim Hortons is a national treasure, and I will fight anybody on that hill. A national treasure. A national. I'm gonna go get me a Timmy's right after this call.
Oh man.
Unapologetic.
I love it. I love it. I know there's some people that like dog on their coffee, saying it tastes like
Mm-mm. I
water.
mean, look, is it the best coffee? Honestly, I've had better, but it's more of the experience of like, like I live in Toronto, like just being in Toronto and you see that Tim Hortons and it reminds you of your childhood and you're like, yeah, that's what's up. So that's what Tim Hortons means to me.
Okay, I feel you. Okay, last one, Bellvines.
Ooh, the future of the creator economy.
Okay, I like that. I like that answer.
That's one I have a lot of opinions on. Yeah, no, but we're building some cool stuff and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Okay. All right. So I do have this one little last section and we're going to wrap things up. So I know we've talked a lot on this episode, whether it's like the creator economy, sales, just being able to just find your own lane when it comes to brand development, brand strategy. So I want to just ask you, what is one takeaway that you want to share with everyone or to anyone who is in that stage trying to find that brand strategy? So like let's put it in this way. Let's say anyone's listening right now is trying to like reach out to you, to Bellvines. How would you like pitch yourself or kind of like in a way let people know this is what we're trying to do and this is exactly why you should work with us and how we can support you and your vision?
So one takeaway or advice on how people can reach out to
I
Bellvines.
would probably say advice to reach out to you.
To Bellvines. Okay, yeah. So there's probably two categories of people that can and should reach out. The first is if you're a brand trying to build influence, reach out. Whether we have relevant or not relevant creators, I'm kind of neutral on that. Like I know that your listener base might have all sorts of brands, and I'm always just happy to talk to people because if you're building a company, you need opinions. So I'm not even necessarily saying reach out to us so you can work with us directly. I'm just happy to have these conversations with people. Like anybody who wants to talk about creator economy stuff, hit me up. I'm down. The second category of people would be creatives. So if you're making content for the internet and you're trying to figure out the business model side of things, I know it's very confusing. For us, we have a very specific kind of like content category that we're in, and I don't really want to get into that because it's kind of complicated, but it's all on our website. So it's unlikely that there's a lot of people who fit our exact content niche. But similar to what I said on the brand side, like if you're just a creator and you just want to have a conversation with somebody who is down to talk about, how to think about the business model and creator economy stuff and being a creator online, I would love to have that conversation with you. I have had that conversation with quite a few people. And as always, like I like to lead with transparency. So I don't have all the answers, but I'm somebody who cares a lot about the creator economy, about creators, and about helping them make their moves and get ahead. So the two ways, those are the two kind of categories of people that can get in touch with me, and the easiest way to do that is on Instagram, which is at Hamza Fasih. And yeah, just shoot me a DM. I'm always down to chop it up.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And guys, I just want to let you know I second with just you being honest, because again, the conversation we had was just you. It was supposed to be an episode, but then it turned into a whole 40-minute discussion, and I was kind of sharing what I wanted to do. Like this was kind
Mm,
of was in the back of my mind, and you were telling me like that's cool, but you got to figure out like that one thing. You're listing like
yeah.
10,000 things.
Before we go, like, how do you think that that initial conversation we had a year ago, like, do you think that anything came out of that?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. I think at first I was really like reflecting on what you said. I was like, oh man, am I trying to do everything at once? I'm like, I mean, I'm not trying to, but it kind of feels like the way I'm kind of giving off the energy, it might be so. So, it made me think about it a little bit more. And I think just over time, I just learned to keep it very simple and just like, yeah, this is how I just want to present myself. And this is how I want people to kind of see me and my business and how I just operate things. And maybe later down the line, once everything is like fully set and like I have what I have, maybe I could think about an idea in the future and it's not me kind of panicking or trying to like, oh, I want to do this all at once. It's like, no, I'm doing this now. And this other idea, it's not even a separate idea. It's more of an extension off of the original idea.
Cool. Cool. Wow. All right. Well, that's amazing. I'm glad. I mean, look at you, man. You're doing all of this. It's all so polished, and this, even just how you're shooting this podcast right now. It's all very very clean. I like what you're up to.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. But Hamza, thank you so much for coming on the Safe Room. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'd be happy to come back anytime. And to the viewer, I hope something that I said was useful, helpful, or interesting.
Listen, you were dropping gems, and listen, I'm gonna make sure anyone listening, you better take everything that Hamza is saying. I'm telling you, this guy right here, he is one of the best support systems you could honestly ask for real.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I try. I care about people, and I've been building for a while, and I like to build alongside people. So I try. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, man. Fantastic. Okay. Anyone listening, thank you to tuning in to the Safe Room this week. You can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all your podcast listening platforms. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, subscribe. We're trying to start getting that YouTube channel back and flowing, so I'm excited for that. Check us out on TikTok, and the website is coming very, very soon. I'm still working on it, but once the day comes, I will be announcing that, and I'm very excited to give you the new look for the Safe Room in terms of the website. But until then, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.